What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to the Struggle to Strength podcast, your source for real life application on how to turn your struggles into strengths in all things mind, muscle, and money. Mainly what I wanted to talk to you about was Watch Gang and scaling that to the level that you have. Can you tell us about where you got the idea and where it got started from, or even like an introduction to what got you to where you are at today?
Yeah, I mean, well, the thing is that I was basically, I'm just self-taught, like on the computers. I got into it really early, literally when I was like, I think in kindergarten or first grade, our teacher had one computer with Oregon Trail on it. And I was obsessed, like from the second I saw a computer, and I didn't want to get off of it. And it would be like years later before I actually had one at my house, and my uncle got us one. We were pretty poor growing up. But when I was 12, my uncle gave me an old computer that he had at his work, and they were just going to recycle it. And so I got a hold of this old IBM ThinkPad that had like a little red mouse button in the middle.
I remember that.
Remember
thing.
those?
Yeah.
And I mean, it had a floppy disk drive. Like this was it was old school. And I got a net like Kroger and the grocery store, and it gave us free internet it just put ads everywhere. So I didn't have to really get my dad to do anything. So, cause he wouldn't want to do that anyway. So then I had internet and I had a computer, and I just like took it from there and I learned everything. But Watch Gang specifically, when my dad died, I got a watch from him that I had gifted him a couple years before. And it just sort of, I don't know, it just gave me this feeling like there was something to that. I started like thinking about watches in general. There's like a story generally associated with watches. Everybody that wears one, or like they saved up and they bought one, or they got it as a graduation gift, or it was passed down to them. And I thought that was really interesting. And I was working in advertising at the time, and I had been wanting to kind of branch out and make my own company, not just grow other people's brands. And so, so I thought of it. I sat down and I registered like the domain name, launched an Instagram account, and I got a sale before I ever spent $1 on ads, which has never happened to me before because I've launched a million things.
Wow.
And generally I'm trying to make people interested. And this one, it just sort of resonated with some folks. And then I put some ads behind it, and it just kind of kept going. I had to keep stopping my ads, fulfill the shipments, hire some friends, and it just kind of grew from there.
Wow, that's awesome. So this is something that it seems like was relatively, did you bootstrap it? It sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, I had one, so I bootstrapped it for the first 3 months, and then I had a friend with some money that gave me money to invest on ads, and he took percentage in the company, and then that's it. I never took any other money from anyone.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's really cool. So this is just something that like you had a feeling people would be interested in. They were very interested, and it's kind of worked out in your favor. As far as the ads go, was that mainly social media that you advertised through?
Yeah, it was all social media at first. And last year we dumped a lot of money into just random tests because at some point, as you scale, you lose momentum, and the CAC is so high. Like you double your spend, but then CAC doubles. So then you're basically in the same spot you were when you were spending the same, the amount before. So that was always a headache for us. So we're like, let's reach out to different areas. Let's try TV, radio. We were a main sponsor of the Conor McGregor fight last year at the UFC. So we banner, and they talked about us before every fight, like the fight card, and that was cool. And that was actually at our peak. We were just crushing it. And so the thing that stopped us from crushing it, this iOS update that happened back in like June or July of last year, crushed a bunch of my friends. It doubled all of our acquisition costs. And then thankfully, since we're a subscription, we had some reliable income every month based on old subscribers, but replacing churned customers was getting more and more expensive. And then Russia war, recession, $7 gas, like it's been brutal for like a year. And we finally like got to a place where we've stabilized and we're able to like kind of grow out of where we are. But it was a roller coaster the last 12 months.
I can't even imagine, especially, I mean, when it comes down to it, you're in kind of a luxury business. Like people don't need watches, but it's nice to have, but this is one of those subscriptions where like, dude, when times get tough, it's probably one of the first things that people look to cut their costs.
Yeah, and you know what it is too is that like the luxury watch market, Rolexes and Pateks and APs,
Yeah.
those are going up and they're going, the value's increasing. And back in '08 during the housing crash, luxury watch market also went up. So people that are rich, they don't care when that gas is $7 a gallon, But my customers, they are more blue collar. They're guys that are buying watches like the first watch or second watch they've ever owned. So I'm sort of introducing people to a market and educating them. And then later on in life, when they're making more money, they are saving up for like higher end watches. So I'm directly impacted by a recession.
Yep. Yeah. So when you started to see that this recession was coming and people, one, your costs were increasing, and two, you maybe saw some churn. What was your first thought? Like, what was your first course of action?
Well, I was noticing that luxury brands were not struggling during this time. And I remembered back in '08 when this exact same thing similar thing happened. I remember reading when I was doing research on watches that the Swiss watch market, it actually improved during. Wealthy people are diversifying their money into other asset classes, art, watches, things like that. And so I raised prices, and I had never done that in the company's history, but I did that, and I knew what it would do is basically going to alienate some people that probably would have churned off quickly anyway, but it's going to attract a customer base that isn't going to feel this recession as hard. And so it was kind of a scary move, but it worked out well for us. And look, we have 3 tiers on our subscription, like a $75, a $150, and a $400. That 75 started at $29 back when we were starting in 2016. And a year later, I introduced a higher tier. And then a year later, we did another higher tier. But over the course of the last 5 years, what I've seen is that even though our lowest tier makes up, let's say, 25% of our customer base, it only brings in 4% of our revenue. And it takes the same amount of time to work with those customers, to respond to tickets, to ship their watches. So as a business owner, I'm looking at that and a third of our time is dedicated to 4% of our revenue. We have to make some changes here. And so that's kind of what we did.
So what were the changes? Just raising prices across the board, or how did you kind of
we raised prices. We sourced better quality watches in order to pull in higher quality customers, or I guess customers with more revenue or financial means. And so more Swiss watches, European brands, and we have to pay more to get those. Shipping is more, components are all more. And so it's just sort of moving up market. We still have a tier that's more accessible. But what we're trying to do is limit the amount of work that we have to do to support that tier, because we can't afford now to put a third of our work into the lower paying subscription. It just doesn't make sense for us. It would actually make more sense for us to just either sell that branch of business or close it down completely if it keeps taking us 33% of our time.
Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of it's like the 80-20 rule, kind of, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's an interesting point, because it's something that you're going to find in the watch business. You're going to find it in your personal relationships everywhere.
Yep.
Yep.
And that's basically that, 80% of the good things that you get are going to come from 20% of where it's coming from. And probably 80% of the bad things that you get are going to come from, 20%. Have you kind of rebalanced that? Is this the first time that you've kind of taken action like that? Or have you rebalanced that before? Have you purposely done the 80-20 rule before?
I mean, I've looked at it before, but we weren't in a crunch before. Instead, I would just hire more people. Bring on more staff and put them in, over certain departments because it's still profitable business. It's just a small portion of it. And rather than cut that book of business, I would hire people. Now I'm not in a position where I can just frivolously make hires. So a lot of companies, what they're going through hiring freezes or layoffs, I tried to identify that pretty early. We made a small pivot 9 months ago, and then I'm implementing new changes here and there. I don't like to cut deep once. I think I probably should if I was going to do that. A year ago, if I was looking forward, I'm saying I'm confident we're heading towards a recession and we're going to be impacted by that. We made changes that were probably better timed, but I wasn't so sure that that's where the economy was going. And a lot of my employees are actually my friends, so I didn't want to make any like moves like that. Yeah. But no, we've actually gotten to a point where we've stabilized, and now we're actually, for the first time here, our revenue is growing month over month. So like we're on our way back.
Where do you see the economy going?
I think we're going to have a pretty bad time over the next 8 to 12 months. I mean, this, like, we've seen like a bounce back, in stocks. I think they're up like 12 or 19% in the last, I don't know, since the low in June. But I believe that's probably just like people seeing the growth a little and they jump back in. I think they call it like a dead cat bounce or something in stocks, where it's heading down towards a recession and towards possibly a depression, but then it kind of bounces a few times before it really starts to go down. Mm-hmm. And all the indicators right now are saying that we're heading towards like a 08 level decline in stocks, like another 50% possibly. So, I mean, if you just look at like what's happening in the economy, I think I saw a stat that said like half of all the US's money ever created was printed in the last like 18 months.
Yeah.
Which is
I think
insane.
I think it was more than half.
Yeah, it might've been more. So
it was a crazy number.
Yeah. If you just logically look at that, you know what happens when they print more money. Like that's just an indicator of inflation, recession's coming, like it's right around the corner. You can't really put that off. And now like Amazon, these huge companies are either doing layoffs, hiring freezes, or completely just like Amazon was going to open 42 more locations, like warehouses around the country, and they just stopped all of it. And Amazon is a pretty good indicator of how the economy is going, because people are, it makes up like 40% of e-com. So if they are not growing, that's overall, everybody is slowing down their spending, which is just, these are all early indicators, right?
So this is sort of why you wanted to move up market, right? Like you anticipated that a recession's coming. Rich people who have tons of money to spend are less impacted by recession. They still spend on luxury items like watches, like in coaching. They're still going to spend money on that.
Yeah.
So people like, we have to move up market. Was your change to your tier subscription, your 3-tier options that you have in your subscription model, are you trying to drive people more towards a certain price point based on how you're pricing your tiers?
Yeah, I mean, basically what we see is that at a certain price, the kind of people that psychologically they can afford that, they will also spend more in our store. When we have like one-time offerings, they'll spend more there. And the fear was also like with this increase of price that churn would increase, but that didn't happen. And that's because, it's a known subscription. So if they can afford the first one, chances are they're okay with it, subscribe, the subscription rolling. So they're not going to churn at higher rates. Mm-hmm. And we were right with that assumption. So the churn didn't go up, but right now we are working on, I wouldn't call it a pivot, but it's more of we're calling it the journey. This is something that we're not releasing like publicly quite yet, but it's coming for early next year, where we're only going to be working with like certain very established brands and basically mapping out a journey of watches that we think every guy should have that's starting out in collecting. And every one of the watches comes with like this education about why you wear it, when you wear it, because you don't wear the same watch to a wedding that you wear to like the beach, right? And we're trying to like make this way more content driven. And if you look at the high-end watch stores, that's exactly what they've done that has worked so well. Hodinkee got like a $25 million investment from LVMH. And that was a big deal in the watch community because they were just bloggers before. And now they have ownership in brands. They do content. They're like authorized distributors for a lot of large brands. So it's all going that way.
Well, they're moving the customer up market.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it benefits the industry. It benefits you. I think that's really strategic. Remind me again, your 3-tier price model, you said 75, 150, and 400.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So I imagine most people, like, if they see 75, they're like, 75, like, I could do 150, but get one from 150 to 400. You got to be pretty serious.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, it makes up, so we get more $400 customers than we get $75 customers.
Really?
It's like 20% of our signups are $400 customers, and about 15% are the $75 customers, which is really interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah. So we always A/B test everything. We're changing prices and images and all this stuff. And we go, what if it's, what if it was $4.99 instead of $3.99? And we tested that actually when we were raising prices. And it was like 7% of customers would buy the $500 package. So we're like, all right, let's go $3.99 and see. And then the increase was so vast for us, it just made perfect sense to go there. And it says a lot about where I think people 75, they might come in and they look and they're like, I don't even want it then. If I can only afford the lowest one, maybe I don't even want this. So I'm curious actually, what would happen if we actually just remove that as an option? What would happen between the $150 and the $400? I see this in grocery. Like there's some marketing study in grocery stores. McDonald's. They'll put like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, same thing.
So it's like the price structure.
Yeah, exactly. You think like, and I've heard Alex Hormozy talk about this, and I've implemented this in my own business as well, is like, if you have 3 price points, where you put the middle one kind of directs where people are going to go from there.
Exactly.
You put it close to the bottom one, then they're like, oh, that's a great deal. But if you put it close to the top price one, they're like, well, I might as well just do that.
Exactly.
So you can kind of drive people towards one way. What's really interesting is that in watches, it seems different. It's like 75 to 150 is double, but then 150 to 400, that's a pretty big jump for most people. But I think it proves that you are going up market because you're attracting higher end customers.
Right. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. And like also the importance of understanding, like if you're starting a company, for instance, like just getting in, the important market and who actually your customer is.
Right.
What do they want? Because like a lot of it's probably has to do with like who's interested in watches or even thinks they're interested in watches. Like, are they just going to be like, no, yeah, I want the best one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how do you know like what type of person, like you got to like know who you're working with.
Yeah, exactly. And we're seeing something now, which is pretty interesting in that, when we started this, I didn't do really much influencer marketing or anything like that. It was sort of just the Wild West days of Instagram and Facebook marketing where you put up ads and it just works. I was getting CAC for like $10. It was amazing. And I wish that I had known where it was going to go, because I would have just dumped all my money into marketing back then. Now it's like costs us $220 to get a customer or something like that. It's wild. So, but we work with brands and we help them market. And where I see the biggest benefit is really not in just putting ads up in front of people's face. It's like, okay, how do we surround a person with people that they follow and keep putting our watches like in front of their face, not so much in a salesy manner, because if they see an influencer, they like wearing it once. Okay. And then if they see another one and then they see it held in retail at a place where they like you have to hit them like 6-7 times. And then they're really starting to be like loyal to the brand.
Mm-hmm. So, and that it sounds like you're doing through influencer marketing, and like you sponsored the fight with Conor McGregor, kind of thing.
Yeah. So that, what's funny, I'd expected that to be a total like waste of money. We actually that was profitable in marketing for us. It was so expensive. I think it was like $500,000 to sponsor the fight.
Holy shit.
And we made more than that back in subscriptions and sales that we did, because we were able to use the UFC's licensing to make watches. So we made a watch for the UFC. We promoted it during the fight. We were able to be like, this is our UFC fight weekend. And then all of the marketing was based around that. We targeted UFC fans with UFC imagery and Watch Gang together. And it actually ended up being profitable, which shocked me.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
That's crazy.
So as far as growing the company and scaling the company and getting eyes on you, it sounds like, I know it sounds like you came in at the right time when social media marketing and advertising was just becoming hot.
Yeah.
What now are the most important things that you're doing that other people can learn from?
I would say, you definitely have to understand your customer more right now than ever, because it's not easy to just put ads up and get sales anymore. That's not really happening. It depends on your market. Like the market that I'm in right now is not a great one for where we're heading, of course. So I have to be able to understand like what kind of customer will be willing to buy during months, let's say, as things get in space, coaching, something that's like you're bettering people, even like health and wellness. People are always trying to be more healthy and get fit and be more attractive. Those are sort of great markets that I almost wish I was in. But Yeah, I think that it's really about delivering a great service or product to a customer, because that's where you really get a sticky product in front of people. And it's not just like saw an ad, bought it, it was okay, and I canceled. That's going to run out. That's not sustainable.
Yeah. And how about, because your existing customers seem to be relatively loyal, and obviously they're willing to pay a premium for your product and your service, do you have like a referral option or any sort of referral program that you use with them?
Yeah, we do. So everybody that signs up gets a referral code, and then they earn half of whatever the person that they referred in, they get that on their first month. Yeah. So I could probably like MLM style this thing if I wanted to, but I don't think there's really much of a market for that. But we give a referral code to everybody. They get half of the revenue that they drive for the first customer and that comes in. And we have this closed program called The Wheel, which is really fun. I think that's going to be one of the biggest parts of our business in the next year or so. Basically, the way it works is like, if you have the budget to buy like a Citizen watch for $200, you pay $200 and you have this wheel that has slices on it. You put your Citizen watch there, but then you add like a bunch of higher end watches, Rolexes and Tags and Omegas, and you just pay the $200. The worst thing that can happen is you land on your Citizen, but you also could win a Rolex. And so we've been having that running for a couple of years, and that's been growing pretty quickly. So that's a really interesting model that we have, and we're introducing that with other products as well. It just gamifies like the e-com experience. Yeah, why would you go buy that watch from Amazon if you can actually win something better if you buy it from us?
Right.
Yeah. And no risk to win something worse.
No risk. That's right. No risk at all.
How do you build that? Like, how do you build that into your revenue stream?
So it's like so basically,
I'm thinking like $200 Citizen's watch to like a several $1,000 Rolex.
Right. Yeah. So let's say that 10% of people are going to win a Rolex, for instance, just for the math's sake. That would mean that 10% of the value or the cost to us of that item has to get baked into basically every spin, right? So because then it amortizes out. So we literally just look at the percent of people that win, take that monetary value, put it on our COGS, and now we know what we can spend on watches. And so we just take a lower margin in order for higher frequency. And a lot of companies have done stuff like this. So like McDonald's, for instance, they do their Monopoly giveaway, right? They give away $1 million. Well, they literally just look, well, yeah, for sure. That's true. They actually, I think there was a documentary about that.
There was. That's the only reason I said that. There was.
Okay, well,
apparently a bunch of.
Forget I said McDonald's.
Yeah, you don't do McDonald's. There's got to be a better one.
Yeah. Sprite, the cap, 1 in 7 wins or something.
There you go.
A good, honest company.
Yeah, for sure. Like Sprite. No, but we actually, we've given away like 400 Rolexes in the past 6 years.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And now, dude, looking back, the amount of money that we would have probably made just by buying those watches and holding them while they go up in value would probably be more than we made in the company. But, yeah, we've given away a lot of Rolexes and Tags, and if you like, people can. The first question I always got for the first probably 2 years was like, "This seems like a scam. How do we know you're actually giving stuff away?" Now there's so many videos of people winning and like being public about it that we really don't get that anymore. So thankfully, the trust has gone up.
It's interesting that you say that. Sorry, go ahead, Trav.
I was just gonna ask real quick before we move on. Rolexes really go up in value like that? Like they're like an investment?
It's bananas the past year. Really? So there's a watch that we gave away. It cost us $5,000. It was a Coke bezel GMT. It cost us $5,000. It's worth like 30 now. And almost every single watch we've given away on a Rolex has gone up at least 50 to 100% in value. And we're talking crazy stuff here. And what has happened is Rolex is just really smart in their distribution, that they're lowering the amount that they're giving out. And so they're driving up demand, and it's working. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What's the best watch to buy from like an investment standpoint? Like what's the best watch that goes up in value the most, do you think?
If you have the budget for it, I would say a new Rolex from the dealer is a great one now, because it's instantly worth more money. Instantly. I mean, if you can get like a rating list on a Rolex Daytona. So if you get one of those at retail, it's $14,000 or $15,000, and it's instantly
because no one else can get it because everyone else is on the waiting list.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like the opposite of a car, kind of. Like
unless it's like
you drive off the lot, it goes up.
Thing. Yeah. That's right.
That's crazy. Cool.
That's pretty wild. So when the thought that came into my mind is when you were saying that people, expected it was a scam, it's almost like too good to be true. I think that happens a lot with new businesses that are taking on new strategies like what you're doing to encourage more attention, encourage more customers to play the game and giving away free shit. And for some reason, people are like, dude, this is good to be true. Like too good to be true. I don't believe it.
So
like, it's a scam.
The way that what I did to combat that early, the first 5 years of the company prior to COVID was every Friday. So every Friday we give away a Rolex also, just like any of our members.
Like a free watch Friday.
So it's our Rolex Friday giveaway. Every Friday, one of our members wins a Rolex for the past 5.5 years.
Damn.
What we would do is we would go live and we'd have a live video Friday. I would have a co-host with me, random people that I would pull in, like comedians or like girls from Deal or No Deal. It was random. And we would do this live giveaway and then their name would appear on the screen. And then that person would generally film a video like, hey, I did get my Rolex from Watch Gang. That really helped us in the beginning, because if you have the CEO's face, I'm talking to you like, am I really going to scam you? I'm going to prison if I do that. You guys know who I am. So
it's me.
So
I did it.
That did build some trust.
That's cool. That makes a lot of sense. And it makes it a lot more engaging. Like you're using social media well at that point. And so you said the first 5 years, when exactly did you incorporate?
It was 2016.
2016. Okay. So you're pretty far into it. And how quickly did you scale how quickly was the scale?
We did 13 million in our first year, which was crazy, right? Because that never happens. So and then we just kept doubling, and then our highest, we were gonna hit 60 million last year, and we didn't because of the iOS update. And that really put a damper on my plans, because I had a lot of stuff happening during that time. We were crushing it. And then iOS hit, the update happened, instantly doubled our CAC. And it's just overnight you could see the sales, and we're like, what the fuck just happened? Oh, and so we're just looking at every possibility. We have some days where it goes back up, but overall it just made it completely inefficient and ineffective.
What happened with the update?
It's a privacy update. And what it did was it made it basically impossible to retarget people effectively, which is where your cheapest sales come from. You hit somebody once and then they see you a few times, and that's generally where you get a lower CAC. And it just made it to where you're blind, you're flying blind, you're throwing ads up to snowmen. You have no clue who's going to see your ads anymore. So you're just hoping for the best. And we tested stuff. We probably saw that 30% of our budget was just wasted. It was just going into the wind, completely ineffective. We knew that because we turned off Facebook, turned it off completely, went from spending thousands a day to zero, and it didn't impact our sales. We're just holy crap, we literally been wasting that money. No one is on I don't know who's on Facebook anymore.
Yeah, I mean, either.
You know what I mean? I log into Facebook only to go into the Facebook group that we have where a lot of our community is. And even that is it shows 40,000 members, but it used to be where I put in a post on the Facebook group, thousands of comments, tons of people reacting and everything. I could basically say something and then thousands of people would go subscribe to our YouTube or interact in some way. I was giving shit away 2 weeks ago in the Facebook group, and 80 people saw it and 4 commented. Yeah. Wow. I'm like, holy crap, this is crazy. Nobody's using Facebook anymore.
Yeah. So this is actually almost a question for me. I have a Facebook group for my coaching company. Okay. Right? And so we have a free group that we give away a bunch of things to. We have a couple thousand people in there. And so I'm curious, from your perspective, where do you see all of them going, and where are you putting your money now?
I believe that so most of those people, they were real humans, right? They were in there, they were interacting. They have just basically, like the MySpace days, they log in less and less and less until one day they go, wow, I haven't logged into my Facebook in a year. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if they have gone to forums or if they just didn't, maybe there was no real need for them to be in a community and a group to talk to people about watches. Because I don't know where they've gone, because I looked at our competitors groups too. They're dead also. Major watch groups that were or they had communities on Facebook, their posts have no engagement either. So I know that, people have either aged out of Facebook because young people are not using it. They're on TikTok and Instagram and Snapchat, and really it's TikTok, right? They've basically taken over all engagement from young eyes. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if there are just more communities online website wise, or if it's like Discord or Telegram. It feels to me that's where the groups are, and that's where people are actually spending their time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Are you guys on Telegram?
I'm not. I'm on WhatsApp. I run my business off WhatsApp. So we have all of our clients interact with our international clients and whatnot all through WhatsApp. Okay. But I have spoken to a few people who are on Telegram. To me, it seems like it's the same thing.
It's basically the same. One just pioneered itself as the privacy WhatsApp. Like Telegram was like, hey, we're more privacy driven. And they just grabbed a market there. WhatsApp, it has groups on it, right?
Yeah.
Like, are there groups on there? So what I see in Telegram a lot of times is I think they're having a problem with spam right now. I'll get invited to some random group and there's like 100,000 people in it. And I didn't ask to join that group. I'm just in it now. But there's high engagement. And I think that may be where people are going is Discord, WhatsApp, Telegram, more app driven and not so much like the social, like look at me type of community.
Interesting. So really just strictly text and data.
That's what it feels like.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Well, shit, dude, I learned a lot today.
Same. Yeah. This was awesome, dude.
Yeah, this was real quick in and out, but I learned a lot. I know you mentioned that you were working on the journey. You guys have the wheel. You have a lot of really cool things that I'm excited to continue to hear more about. Our listeners are probably going to want to learn more about you, more about Watch Gang, where they can find you, where you're at. So before we hop off, why don't you give yourself the plug and tell us where we can find you?
Cool. Thanks. Yeah, it's at Watch Gang for Instagram. And I'm at Matt, MATTOMIC. It's like atomic, but with my name. And I hate that I did that, to be honest, because now I have to say it and explain it. Whereas I was like, I felt so clever when I first registered it. But anyway, that's my Instagram. And yeah, we're watchgang.com.
That's awesome, man. Well, Matt, you've been very successful in the past few years, and it's cool to learn how you've kind of gone through not only COVID, but now going into a recession, how you're pivoting. Like, it sounds like you're doing really amazing things, and definitely someone I want to continue to learn from. So I appreciate you coming on and sharing with us what you've done.
Of course. Thank you guys for having me. Really appreciate it. This was fun.
Of course. Yeah, man, it was. So thank you again. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in to another episode of the Struggle to Strength podcast. We'll see y'all next week.